Ridiculous.
Ridiculous, but I bet it was for a significant amount of money.
Still ridiculous.
Yeah, but fun. I'd watch it. Look, Jake Paul wants to test himself against actual, not just world champion, but one of the greatest of all time.
Really fought, and it wasn't fixed. Jake Paul would not survive 45 seconds.
I don't know about that. I think it would take a few rounds.
Really?
But yeah. First of all, Jake is a lot bigger. Jake's a lot bigger.
But what weight would they fight?
Well,
You're not prepared for this one, I see. The Will Smith-Chris Rock slap seems like a kind handshake at a church picnic in light of what recently transpired in the world of combat sports. Joe Rogan, the man who has witnessed everything from UFO confessions to spinning back kicks, recently dropped his jaw so hard that it very likely registered on the Richter scale. Why? Because Francis freaking Ngannou, the mountain of muscle and mayhem himself, was just called out by Jake, the problem child, Paul, YouTube's royal prince of chaos. What was Joe Rogan's response? He appeared to have witnessed a bare arm wrestle a tornado, to put it mildly. "He's fucking crazy," he exclaimed. And you could require a CT scan if Joe Rogan, the human incarnation of chaos theory, claims you're insane. For brain cells, this is an extinction-level event rather than merely a call-out. Fighters are going crazy, the internet is on fire, and Dana White just spilled his protein shake in slow motion. This turns the family strife involving the Kardashians into a yoga retreat. The secrets, responses, and memes surrounding this Jake Paul versus Ngannou madness will make your jaw drop twice. So stay put. Jake Paul woke up and decided to use violence once more, just like every other day in the circus known as combat sports. This time, though, he wasn't only making fun of another retired MMA father or some washed-up influencer. No. Francis, the Predator, Ngannou, a man who could likely topple a truck with a single sneeze, was the literal lion that Jake Paul chose to poke. What about the internet? Lost it is. Keep in mind, imagine seeing this tweet from Jake Paul when you get up and browse through X. "I'll show you what true power looks like. Francis Ngannou." Yes. A thunderstorm stopped out of respect somewhere in Cameroon. Everyone with at least 2 working brain cells, even Rogan listeners and fight fans, could sense the collective gasp. When he heard the news, even Joe Rogan, who has witnessed more mayhem than a Greek god, almost spat up his elk steak. Rogan leaned back, raising his eyebrows to orbit, and spoke the words that went viral on his podcast. "He's completely insane." And the incredulity in his voice was audible. This was real shock. Joe Rogan truly questioned whether Jake Paul's frontal lobe had left for Mars. To be clear, Francis Ngannou is more than just powerful. He is a human wrecking ball made from the ruins of other men's ambitions in a gym. His blows are so strong that when scientists attempted to quantify them, they unintentionally found dark matter. In the meantime, YouTuber turned boxer Jake Paul has made a career out of doing the seemingly impossible, including silencing critics, knocking out retired athletes, and accumulating wealth like Legos. However, he didn't simply cross the line this time. Instead, he ran across it while backflipping and shouting, "Let's go!" Joe Rogan's podcast co-host burst out laughing when he heard the call-out. The awkward "oh no he didn't" laugh that suggests we might need an ambulance shortly. With a shake of his head, Rogan stated, "Francis is more than simply a boxer. He's an advancement in species. Jake Paul will be attacked so hard that his vlogs will upload on their own." The video got viral as well. TikTok blowing up. Reddit melting. YouTube, "Jake Paul has officially lost his mind," is the title of dozens of reaction videos. Jake's final right hook was outpaced by the memes. Jake was seen standing across from Ngannou in one widely shared edit, which had the following caption, "Point of view, you recently respawned in real life." Even combatants were compelled to participate in the roasting. "Someone check Jake's Wi-Fi. He's clearly disconnected from reality," said Kamaru Usman, never missing an opportunity to remain current. Conor McGregor tweeted, "Jake Paul versus Ngannou? To witness his soul depart from his body, I will purchase a front row seat." The problem is that Jake has stirred things up before. From Canelo to Nate Diaz to KSI's grandmother. Well, maybe not the last one, but you get the idea. He has called out everyone. However, Francis Ngannou, after viewing an inspirational TikTok, that would be akin to challenging Thanos to an arm wrestle. The timing is what makes this even more bizarre. After 10 rounds with Tyson Fury, a man whose jab feels like a sledgehammer soaked in sorrow, Ngannou came very close to winning. Jake Paul thought, "Yeah, Perfect time to risk my brain cells for clout, because the man's stock was so high. Joe Rogan's response was interest more than just shock. He is aware that Jake Paul is not a moron. He sells chaos in the same way that Elon Musk does hype. Millions of dollars appear out of thin air each time Jake speaks. Rogan's mind began to race, wondering whether this was just another ruse. Or does Jake's swagger actually make him suicidal? Rogan put it best: we won't be witnessing a boxing bout if Jake and Francis truly square off. We are witnessing a scientific investigation into the extent of human delusion. Nevertheless, that's what makes it so brilliant. Fear sells, as Jake Paul is aware. He enjoys playing the antagonist, the troublemaker, and the person that everyone loves to despise. This could be his masterpiece. He has created an empire out of hate. It's a clout play, according to some. Some claim that Jake's ego has developed into an organism that needs violence to survive. However, one thing is certain. Joe Rogan's shocked response simply elevated this from a tweet to a significant cultural event. People began sharing side-by-side edits of Ngannou nonchalantly pounding a training dummy into dust particles, and Jake Paul performing his iconic ring walk. The contrast was hilarious. One admirer wrote, "The hospital should host Jake Paul's next training camp." The twist is that Jake doubled down rather than giving up. Wearing sunglasses and grinning like a Bond villain who had just hit the self-destruct button on humanity, he went on Instagram Live and said, "You're afraid of Ngannou? I'm not. Power is respected. I'm also constructed differently." That line that built different? Yes, that became meme fuel right away. Videos of automobiles blowing up, dominoes crashing, and even dramatic SpongeBob fainting were removed from it. Jake Paul was dubbed the king of bad ideas by the internet. What about Joe Rogan? He simply sat there and shook his head, uttering, "This guy is either a marketing whiz or a well-lit crash test dummy." However, neither Rogan nor anyone else realized that this was only the beginning. Not even Rogan's third eye could have predicted the chaotic tornado that was about to erupt from the stress, the reactions, and the money. Because everyone is watching you when Jake Paul calls you out. And when Ngannou responds, the universe blows up, oh boy. The internet didn't simply respond when Jake Paul's call-out appeared in the algorithm. It exploded. It was as if someone had thrown a grenade into the group chat of the battle community. Fans, warriors, and memes all burst simultaneously like digital pyrotechnics, and you could almost hear keyboards crashing across the globe. Twitter? A conflict area. TikTok? Anarchy. YouTube? Thumbnails of Jake's visage that had been photoshopped into a hospital bed were everywhere. Even Ngannou's highlight clip was trimmed with the subtitle, "Coming Soon, Jake Paul's Retirement Plan." What about Joe Rogan? He was unable to quit discussing it. Each segment of his podcast was edited, remixed, and posted on social media with headlines such as, "In 4K, Rogan predicts Jake Paul's funeral." Jake Paul was just referred to as a walking concussion experiment by Joe Rogan. However, the insanity didn't end there. It developed legs. Celebrities began to comment. Snoop Dogg tweeted, "Man, somebody tell Jake to chill before he fights a rhino next." The Rock tweeted, "Jake's got guts, or a death wish." Elon Musk also commented on X in a mysterious post, saying, "Respect the hustle. Be afraid of physics." When Elon Musk, a man who aspires to inhabit Mars, essentially warned, "Don't try this on Earth," you knew something was wrong. Fight promoters, meanwhile, sniffed money. "I'd actually pay to see Jake Paul get launched into orbit," Dana White reportedly said while drinking his energy drink in Vegas. The notion of Jake versus Francis was so ridiculous that it became wonderful. The public was unable to turn away. You are aware that each generation has a single event that epitomizes its madness. It was Mike Tyson chewing his ear for the 1990s. It was Kanye interrupting Taylor in the 2000s. What about this generation? Perhaps Jake Paul is attempting to outsmart a real weapon of mass destruction. The ingenuity of the memes reached nuclear proportions. In one widely shared cut, Jake Paul was photographed with a housefly flying over his head while Francis was shadowboxing. Another depicted Joe Rogan as a monk who was mumbling, "We warned him," while meditating. At last, even Francis Ngannou spoke up. In an interview, he described himself as terrifyingly casual, calm, and composed. Jake is courageous, perhaps overly daring. However, I respect anyone who chooses to put themselves to the test. Interpretation? Bring an ambulance and a will. The internet switched once more as soon as Ngannou spoke. Wait, what if this actually happens? Fans began to speculate. fight posters with dramatic titles like Problem Child versus Predator. The end of civilization began to appear everywhere, some real and most fan-made. Ever the marketer, Jake Paul thought it was fantastic. One was shared by him with the following caption: "They said I was incapable of doing it. I must now do so. The world's collective facepalm is about to begin." Naturally, Joe Rogan examined it like a philosopher who had just seen the end of the world. He declared, "Jake is wearing gasoline boots as he enters the lion's cave. Perhaps that's the point though. The child wants to shock rather than win. And that is Jake Paul's deranged brilliance. His dominion has been based on virality rather than victory. He is aware of the debate, mayhem, and clickbait that permeate the internet. The more unfeasible the fight, the more people pay attention. And Rogan's incredulity? That seasoning was ideal. Joe's shocked response felt genuine, and the internet lives on authenticity. Unscripted, not excited. WTF energy in its purest form. It was constantly broadcast on sports networks. ESPN produced breakdowns. It became headline gold thanks to TMZ. Every meme account, podcast, and TikTok boxing site was capitalizing on this news as if it were the last remaining piece of online significance. Even Jake's own brother, Logan Paul, made disparaging remarks. On Impulsive, he chuckled and said, "I adore Jake, but Ngannou? That is suicide in HD, not boxing." Jake, however, remained unflinching. He became a complete villain. Uploaded a training video in slow motion with the following caption: "Fear is not real. A legacy endures forever." In a single day, that video alone received 50 million views. People realized at that point that Jake Paul had already won the attention war. He had taken over the entire internet before the combat had even begun. Rogan put it best: "This child is not engaged in combat with Ngannou. He is battling reality itself." One thing became evident as the excitement grew to cosmic proportions. This was no longer merely a boxing call-out. It was a cultural occasion, a manifesto transformed from a meme. An out-of-control viral hurricane. Jake Paul's ability to defeat Francis Ngannou wasn't being questioned. The world was inquiring, is Jake Paul going to make it through this? Thus, the internet went crazy. Critical mass was attained by the memes, tweets, and reaction videos. The fight between Jake Paul and Francis Ngannou evolved into a societal nuclear event. Instead of wondering who would prevail in the ring, they were wondering if humanity as a whole could endure watching it. The man who used to quietly talk about psychedelic experiences and elk hunting was suddenly practically yelling into his microphone. Each and every video of him declaring, "He's fucking nuts," was remixed into TikToks, including cats flying off houses, nuclear mushroom clouds, and auto accidents. His incredulity served as the internet's standard sanity check. Perhaps none of us could comprehend it if Joe couldn't. Celebrities continued to fuel the flames in the meanwhile. With the description, "Jake Paul's fan club meeting," Conor McGregor shared a mysterious TikTok of himself shadowboxing. "I'm popcorning this one," The Rock tweeted. Even Elon Musk began quietly tweeting about mass displacement and physics, which everyone took to mean that Jake's about to get launched into orbit. "Someone hold my coffee." The fight business took off. Every source centered the dollar signs, merchandising, ticket sales, promotions. Except for the medical community, that is, every source. Doctors began tweeting warnings about punching power, brain health, and seriously, don't try this at home. But did anyone pay attention? Not, of course. The foundation of Jake Paul's brand is confusion, clicks, and controversy, rather than caution. The memes, oh, the memes came next. Jake was photographed as a video game figure plunging into a lava pit, as Ngannou swatting a cartoon fly, or even as a real piñata being battered by fate. Everywhere on the internet took part in the roast. In fan edits, the Avengers and Justice League watched in fear as Jake entered the octagon. But some clarity surfaced in the middle of the confusion. Not only was Joe Rogan astounded, but he was also predictive. He had previously stated that Jake was battling reality rather than Francis. And actuality, it wasn't giving up. Francis Ngannou didn't require theatrics since he was cool under pressure. It was clear from every interview, highlight film, and training punch that this was a David versus Goliath situation in which Goliath was real rather than a YouTuber versus athlete show. Like a poorly crafted viral video, public opinion was divided. Jake Paul's boldness was applauded by half of the world, who described him as a modern-day gladiator. a marketing genius, and a meme generation hero. The other half questioned his decisions in life, his instinct for survival, and whether it was still appropriate for anyone to use fists to get notoriety. The financial fallout followed. Sponsors rushed. Bidding wars were discussed by streaming platforms. Pre-sales of tickets broke records for events that didn't even exist yet. Jake Paul had made money off of his boldness. The battle itself may never take place, but the drama, that was already invaluable. Even Ngannou's standing was enhanced. He was referred to as a real Marvel supervillain, a walking disaster, and a one-man demolition crew. The internet was terrified just by his presence, so he didn't need to reply with threats. Jake Paul too. He turned into the person who dared to defy science, a contemporary Icarus wearing boxing gloves as he soared into the sun of his own conceit. What does this ultimately tell us? That disagreement is appealing, that boldness prevails, that the internet will always remember the day a YouTuber chose to flirt with obliteration in order to remain relevant, and that Joe Rogan's jaw is the official gauge for what the hell just happened. The issue of whether the fight will actually take place remains when the dust settles. Is Jake Paul going to live long enough to make another vlog? Is Ngannou going to turn up at all? Or is this merely the beginning of a story that goes viral and gets worse until the universe steps in? There is no doubt that this is not the end. The fury, the pandemonium, and the memes are only getting started. And Joe Rogan's astonished response will live on in the annals of internet history forever. Because sometimes the truth is a little crazy and wilder than fiction. The altercation might be fictitious, but the panic? Yes, that is quite true. Now, online warriors, if you believed that your brain was secure, you should reconsider. You just saw the mayhem, the memes, the whole insanity of Jake Paul versus Francis Ngannou. And believe me, this is only the beginning. Congratulations, you obviously have superior reflexes than Jake Paul's survival instincts if you're still breathing and your jaw isn't on the ground. Every click encourages this madness. So smash that like button as if it owed you money. In this world of viral scandals, it kind of depends on alerts. So hit the subscribe button faster than Jake, avoiding Ngannou's right punch, and ring that bell. Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. Who will survive this? For their own sake, who is trending too much? Which memes had you laughed so hard you terrified your neighbors? The pandemonium, the viewpoints, the completely insane hot takes. We want it all. Recall that scandals aren't a maybe here at Boxing Room. Rather, they are a daily subscription to mayhem, drama, and unforgettable events that you won't find anywhere else. You don't want to miss the next viral catastrophe, so fasten your seatbelts, keep an eye out, remain ferocious, and never forget that only the most insane people survive in the battle for clicks. People survive in the battle for clicks.